Hey guys, my name is NERFMODE, and in today's video we are going to be taking a look at the weapon customization in Delta Force. This guide is going to go through the best attachments to increase your weapon stats to have every weapon have insane handling and recoil. Okay, so let's kick things off. So first, you're going to want to come to your gunsmith and come to a gun and scroll down to on this little tab where you can see your weapon stats. You can see a top level view of all these attributes, but if you click details at the bottom, you're going to see a wider variety of stats. So it covers 5 areas: damage, control, handle, instability, and accuracy. But these aren't as simple as they are. Not everything is what you think it is. So accuracy is not actually bullet spread. And control, it actually covers a lot more than what you originally think. So let's go through each one and go through what they mean. Hey there, Editor Cal here. Just a quick pause on the guide. If you haven't already, please make sure that you subscribe to the channel. If you haven't already, turn that notification bell on and it will notify you every time that I release a video. Right, let's get on to the guide. We're actually going to go into the first tab. This is the damage tab. We're going to see a graph here that actually shows the fall off rate of the range per damage. So we can actually see the further away we get, the less damage it's going to do. And we can also see a little graph on the side here, which indicates the damage per body part. So we can see that like the legs, the kneecaps, the shins are all doing 17 damage, the arms 17. We're going to do 30 damage to the torso, 34 damage here, maybe to the top shoulders 17, and to headshots we're going to be doing 64 damage. So that pretty much covers damage. There's not much to this graph, but it just allows you to give an understanding of where to aim, what body parts is going to do the most damage to here. So going into the second tab under control, we're going to see a few stats here and a few things just to give you an understanding of how your gun is going to handle. So we've got 2 things on the side here. This is the base control, so this is the base weapon, and what the stats are without attachments. Then we've got another little thing to the right of it. So if we add modifications to it, so we add like grips, we add stocks, we add scopes, we add lasers, this is going to give you an understanding of how tight that recoil is going to be improved. And these are the things that it covers. So these are the sub attributes. So it pretty much covers four areas of recoil. So we've got full auto, we've got vertical horizontal recoil, we've got a burst recoil, and we also have the burst recoil for vertical horizontal. You might think that that fire instability would be under the stability tab. What it actually is, it's under control. So any attachment that we want to add more stability to our weapons so they're not shaking around too much, we're essentially going to want to make sure that anything is plussed on the control side here. So if we go back to this original one, any attachment, we want the control to go up, not stability. Now jumping into the third tab, we've got handling. This pretty much covers actually covers a lot of stats baked under one. I'm not really keen on the fact that it just bakes all these under one, because for example, I wouldn't understand why a reload time would be under ADS time, but it covers a lot of speed. So it covers walk speed, sprint speed, we've got ADS movement speed, we've just got aim down sight speed and in general, the sprint to fire delay, reload times, holster time. This just covers pretty much the timings of things, of how quick these mechanics can be. So anything we want to do, if our guns are too slow by pulling up, or our guns are too clunky, they're too heavy, this is pretty much, we're going to want to add an attachment that can up this handling time. So jumping into the fourth tab, we're going to go through the stability tab here. This covers quite a lot. It just covers more stability of the gun as you move the gun around. So this can cover, so if we've been running, this is the sway range. It goes through breath handling, the holding duration, so how long you can hold your breath. We've got the flinch multiplier, so if we're being shot at, how much our weapons, so if we're in a gunfight, how much our weapons gonna shake around, our movement stability and our lens stability while firing. So this covers a lot of stuff to do with movement. That pretty much covers stability. And then jumping into accuracy, you would have thought accuracy would have been essentially the recoil of a gun, but it's not. This accuracy only covers when we're firing from the hip. And it does actually say in this little bit at the top here, it says the higher the accuracy, the tighter the shots are when firing from the hip. So it's not actually about aim down sight, nothing like that. So just be aware that anything that increases accuracy is not increasing the whole accuracy of the gun, just increases it while aiming down sight. Now jumping straight into things, I'm going to show you essentially how to customize a weapon and go through each of these attachments and how we can increase this gun's stats. But first, we kind of need to understand what this weapon is bad at and what it's good at, and we need to do that for every weapon. So this is going to be different per weapon, but we're just going to get an understanding of what the base weapon is and then what we need to improve going forward with the attachments. So if you pull out your base weapon, we know that obviously submachine guns are close range and they're not very long range. So I'm going to get an understanding of what the shooting feels like at long range. So I know this recoil, without me pulling down, of course, is not the greatest. I'm going to see the recoil with me adjusting with obviously pulling down, like recoil control. It's not bad, but it's also not great. Like, it's a little bit shaky. Like, we know at close range it's going to be good. And then we're going to see obviously the hip fire spread is quite wide, so we might need to increase that stability. So I think we're going to need to get more stability on the weapon, because we're going to be hip firing a lot, jumping around corners, jumping around corners and hip firing and aiming down sight as we go. So I think we need some good ADS speed, good control, good stability. Okay, so the first attachment we're going to want to add to an MP7, and I'm going to explain why, is the barrel. So going into a barrel, depending on what gun you're using, it does open up like a bit more attachments to add on, so you can add some guards and stuff. But obviously in a sub, it's not going to add that many attachments. I think a sub is pretty much as basic as it comes. We're going to go through just each of these right now. I'm just going to give you an explanation of why I would choose a certain attachment over another attachment. So just we'll go from blue to purple, because obviously blue are the lowest, and then purple obviously are obviously better. So adding on, it does tell you what slots these open up. So right now they open a bipod and 2 patches. This doesn't add any, and this doesn't add any. So not always adding more slots is better, so you can add more attachments. It can make the gun heavier, and it can make the gun handle a little bit worse. So coming in, this attachment only adds a bit of range and control. It doesn't actually give us much more stats than what we're actually getting right now, so I wouldn't actually have this on for 23 grand. I just feel like this is probably a pointless attachment. Coming into this attachment, this is the Stinger long range. I think for this weapon, I just wouldn't add this. We lose a lot of handling time, so that would be pulling out our weapon, ADS speed. I think a lot of the speeds on this weapon need to be high, just based on the fact that it is a sub. You don't want to lose them stats. The accuracy, we also do need that accuracy, because that is the non-ADS aim down sights spray. So it's the hip fire. Yeah, that is the hip fire. We're losing 12 points on hip fire there. I just don't think that's what I would add on to this. And that is 49 grand. I just wouldn't add that on based on the fact that I lose a lot of hip fire, and I know I'm going to be hip firing a lot with this SMGs. This one I just definitely wouldn't add. This just loses a lot of stats, and you don't really gain that much. I think the one I'm going to add is the Lunar Chrome. I think the Lunar Chrome right now is the best attachment, and it's 27 grand. It's probably the second cheapest. This is 23, this is 27. These two are 40 grand, but I would choose this one over the other two based on the fact that I get plus on all of these. It doesn't take any hip fire from me. My stability is going to be a lot better. My handling increases by 4. I get a lot more control, which means obviously we know that means recoil now. And my damage range is +6, so it means I'm increasing my range of damage, and the fall off is probably a lot better. So we'll install this one here. Okay, so going into the next attachment, I think for a submachine gun and mainly a lot of guns, we're going to want to add a suppressor. Not every gun you're going to want, but I feel like going into a gunfight or going into the start of a raid, I'm going to want to be suppressed just to cover my tracks, not let people know where I'm going. So I would probably go through these suppressors. So there's 4 suppressors in the middle here. I wouldn't really go with this blue one. I just don't think it adds enough. If you are tight on a budget, then 10 grand is not too bad. But just based on this one, we do lose a lot of handling and accuracy down here. I don't feel like this is the best of things, and I don't feel like it adds enough stats here. It's taking away a lot and also not really adding enough. Going through to the silent suppressor, this definitely takes away too much handling. We want to keep that ADS high. We also kind of want to keep that stability too. Going into this one, this is 49 grand. I do feel like it takes a lot of accuracy away. Like I said, that is hip fire, but we don't want to take hip fire away. We kind of need our hip fire. So the last two are probably the two that I would choose for this weapon. This one doesn't give any range. This is the only thing about this silencer. It just doesn't give. I would choose this one, keep the accuracy the way it is. If it just give me like a couple of points of range, added a bit more damage to my range. The obvious answer here is the multi-caliber suppressor. It keeps my stability. It does doesn't take away a lot of handling, but does give me a bit more range, a bit more control, which is the control is what I need to bring down that recoil. So this is the one I'm going to install. So that's what I would look for on these. I think I'm going to want to decrease my recoil, but also up my range. And we know from the initial test that that's what we're struggling with this weapon. So right now we've only got 2 attachments on. Okay, I'm going to speed run the rest of these now. I'm just going to choose the attachments that I would choose for this weapon, explain very briefly why I'm choosing them. But at the end, we'll go through the gun stats. We will see what we've increased, and then we'll go into the next stages of the Gunsmith. So starting off with the rear grip, we're going to choose the stable rear grip. This adds tons of stats here. Definitely adds more control and stability, which I'm wanting right now. Does decrease a bit of handling, but I'm not too bothered about that. Going into the magazine, I feel like we're going to go for a 60 round. That was pretty obvious. The more bullets, the better. Yes, it does decrease handling, but we're going to be absolutely churning through bullets at this point. The more bullets, the better in a gun, really. For me, it's between 2 stocks. I like this high performance stock. The high performance one adds tons of accuracy, doesn't decrease the handling that much, but I usually go with the shadow buffer stock. I usually like a bit more handling, just based on the fact that we are an SMG, so we've got that more control. Yes, it does decrease the stability here a little bit. I'm not too bothered. So I would go with this one. Going into the foregrip, we're going to choose the universal front hand stop. The rest of these, they don't really warrant much adding to this type of gun. Yes, it does decrease the control a little bit, but this hip fire is just drastic, so I'm going to add that. Okay, so going into the last part here in the optics and the rails, I feel like this is pretty subjective. We're going to want to add a few things that are personal preferences, but this is the setup that I would usually go with an MP7, just based on the fact that I can customize it a bit more to my liking. So going into the optic, we're going to want to first add a multi-purpose tactical rail. That means we can put the laser on the top, which I really like. So the laser, we're going to want to choose the red laser light combo. It doesn't really matter which laser you use. I personally just prefer this one. That's my favorite. Going into the optic, we're going to want to choose a micro sight riser, because we want the scope to be above this. Otherwise, it's gonna get taken over by it. So first we'll install that, and then we'll go into the scope. And now it's pretty much subjective, so you can use any of these. The stats are the same for each. It's just mainly based on price and which ones are better. Clearly this is the best scope. You're taking up less screen space with your riser, so I'll add this one on. But apart from that, we don't really have to add any of these rails. You don't need any because you've already got your scope on here, so I personally wouldn't add any. You can add a flashlight if you wanted it. You don't have to have one, but this would be my personal setup for the MP7. Okay, so the next part to this tutorial in the Gunsmith is calibration. The biggest part about these is to tweak these attachments that you've added. You can now calibrate most of these, so you can calibrate your stock, your optic, you calibrate your rear grip. Here's how to get to calibration. So you come into this modify tab, come to calibrate, and you're going to see a few calibrations that you can do. So you can calibrate your barrel, your foregrip, your rear grip, your stock, and your riser optic. So you can move them back along the rails. You can move your foregrip up and down the rail. You can obviously your rear grip, you can add some weight to it. So if it's got too much recoil, you can add some more weight. And then coming into your stock, you can move it back and forward, give it more ADS. So let's go through them, and we will give you a bit of an understanding of how these work. So we're going to start off with the barrel. You can calibrate the weight and the length right now. So if you decrease the weight, you can see that you gain a lot of ADS movement speed, but you decrease your firing stability. Personally, like, I just want my gun to pull up a lot. I don't care about my movement while I'm ADS'd. If I am aiming down sight, it means I'm probably going to want a bit more stationary movement. I'm not going to be moving crazily unless I'm turning a corner, or even then I'm moving slowly. I'm probably peeking and shoulder peeking. So I'm going to bump this up to the far right. I'm going to increase that firing stability, but decrease my ADS movement speed. When it comes to length, obviously these stats, so if I decrease my ADS speed, I get a lot of muzzle velocity. So but the problem is with that, it does decrease my ADS. So I probably decrease this to like 2 maybe. But for this specific weapon, for the MP7, I am increasing this to the full maximum. I want the maximum bullet velocity for this gun. I want it to pack a punch at the end. Whereas my ADS speed, I've already got a lot of attachments on my weapons that are increasing that ADS speed. Okay, so coming into the foregrip, the first thing you're going to want to do is adjust the thickness slider here. You're going to want to bump this all the way down. We want to increase that ADS movement speed, and we also want to budge that weight all the way to the top because we want as much control in this weapon as we possibly can. We want to decrease that recoil, that visible recoil that we've got at the moment. So adding more weight to this weapon will definitely stop it from rising up to the ceiling, and just keep that accuracy pinpoint. And then obviously right now, if we up this, we lose a lot of ADS speed, which we don't want. We actually want to gain a lot of movement speed here. That's pretty much the foregrip. Let's move on. Looking at rear grip, it's pretty much going to be the invert. We're going to bump weight all the way up on this, gain more control, and we want to turn down the thickness on this because this will give us the hip fire aim advantage, the aim speed, sorry. So we almost want to just keep it quick, keep it snappy, but also gain that extra control. So yeah, that's been the rear grip. We'll move on. Coming into the stock then, we're going to want to bump both of these weight and position all the way up. So if we bump the weight all the way up, we get way more control of this weapon. Like I said, this is an SMG. We're going to be bumping around, and we're going to be jumping. We're going to be crouching, lying down, prone. Every maneuver that you're going to be doing with an SMG, you're going to want to counter it with that extra control because we are relying on our raw aim here. We're going to want to bump that weight all the way up. If we decrease it, we can see that we lose all that control, but we gain stability while breathing. Don't feel like that is the thing because all we're doing is going to be hip firing mostly at close range, ADS in a long range. So I feel like this, we just need that extra control. Coming into position, this bumps the position back and forward, as you can see. I'm going to bump it all the way back. I want that extra control, and I want that fire and stability here. I'm not too bothered about the ADS speed here because I've gained ADS speed in other places. So yes, I am losing this 4.8% on ADS speed, but I've gained it in other areas. So I'm not too bothered about losing it in this part, but that control is really necessary in this one. So yeah, that's been the stock. Let's move on. So yeah, coming into the optics, we're going to want to decrease this zoom level, which essentially doesn't zoom it in as much. We don't want to be like all the way zoomed in. And then coming into the eye relief, just rise it up a little bit. It doesn't need to be crazy, but we do want that extra eye relief. So yeah, this is coming in. You can click this little button at the bottom, show calibration effect, and these are all the effects that we've added onto the gun. If you want to save your loadout, you can click loadout and you can save your current custom one. So you can click save at the bottom right here. You can name your weapon. I've got two of the same one saved with just different things. So you can save this. I'll just save it in this slot, and you can load this whenever. This is currently a 500,000 gun. I think this is one of the best MP7 builds you can buy and you can get right now. I don't feel like any other weapons doing that justice. If you come into this details panel, as I said, fall off is not too crazy, and you still do damage in the same places. It's not really going to change much damage. That's more to do with bullets, but we have another guide coming for that. The control, you can see this is the control that I've done. So this was the base control. This was the recoil as it rose up to the head. So if you aimed at crotch level, you'd eventually get to the head. Right now, we can adjust this. We've adjusted it to this. These are the attachments, and this is the calibration taking effect. You can see these are all the sub attributes. This is all the multiplier for recoil. This has decreased it. We can see handling, so you can come in here and analyze all your stats, look at your stability, and look at your hip fire accuracy. So let's go through, let's test this weapon, and let's have a look at what this actually does in the long run. So this is pinpoint accurate. I'm only adjusting my aim ever so slightly. A lot easier to keep pinpoint, especially at this 30 meter accuracy. This is 35 meters away. More than likely, you're not going to be fighting anyone longer than this with an SMG. If you are fighting anyone longer than this with an SMG, get an AR on you, get a sniper. I feel like this is probably the longest you're going to want to be fighting. More likely, you're going to be playing close up and jumping around corners. All you really have to do is just aim. And that is it. But yeah, that has been the guide. I just wanted to say a massive thank you for making it this far into the video. Hopefully I didn't mess up along the way, and I've not said anything absolutely stupid. If you haven't already, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be releasing one of these every single week, whether it's a map guide, an operator guide. I'm going to be covering multiple games, whether it's Warzone, whether it's Battlefield. I'm going to try cover as many games as possible. I play a lot of FPS shooters, so make sure you tune into the channel every single week, and hopefully there is content that you will like. So anyway, my name has been NERFMODE.